Hey there, what is good, y'all? Welcome back to Frame by Frame, starring moi, Christopher Not Nolan, where a plethora of stories are told through numerous perspectives, and we get the chance to walk in these footsteps of some of these fictional or biographical characters, and we vicariously explore their journeys, and we learn things that we never knew before. Thus, we insert our empathy of seeing their personal struggles, their triumphant obstacles, survival, or even finding love, even when some people are against it. I mean, that's the beauty of cinema since the beginning of its creation, seeing a plethora of journeys. Now, let's get to the good stuff, shall we? Now, I know it has been a minute or maybe lukewarm eternity for some of y'all, and no worries. I didn't drop off the grid on purpose. Let me tell you, a lot has happened these past few weeks, and this hiatus was not planned at all. I wanted to come back with some content and just a little bit of chaos.
And I just want to help you, Abel.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up! What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? I have to go right now. I'm getting calls. I have to catch a flight. I'm on a tour.
I'm sorry, y'all. I had to do it since it was going by. Yeah, for real, though. So, first off, I had traveled to go see a family member graduate high school, which was very, very meaningful. I had pinky promised to attend, and you know that we don't break those pinky promises. Otherwise, it's going to be like, you tried it, bitch. So, no. Then, second of all, after that, I had traveled yet again because I got hired on an upcoming TV show that is going to be released very soon. Yeah, I signed myself an NDA, so that's all you're getting. And so I was literally on set for an entire week, and it was a thriving experience, not only just for learning through the lens of an actor, but just to be in that environment itself with the PAs and the directors and the ADs and the people that were with the equipment. It felt like home. It felt great to be back on set again. And to make it even better, your boy got sick for a bit, and it took a hot minute to get back to 100. And voila. And I have got so many things, so many updates for y'all that I'm going to pull myself a Harry Potter, Twilight, and Hunger Games move where I'm going to be splitting this episode into two. Now, I don't know how many of y'all got that, but whoever did, that's on that. So this will be recorded back to back, and part two will be its own little continuation. But no worries, I'm on top of it. And now, before we get into today's episode, if you're wondering how many sequels, prequels, reboots, and remakes we always get each year, well, then you're watching the right podcast because trust me, I always said that there are jingles of them every single year. And I am an advocate for originality that is done wonderfully and great, aka sinners. So go ahead and give this episode a like if you're looking forward to remakes, especially some of the ones later released this year. Subscribe if you're into sequels, especially the ones that continue a very great story. And don't be shy to comment if you like some of the origin stories of certain characters in prequels, and share this episode with those in your social circle who just love to watch movies and TV series when it comes to certain reboots. Now, prequels? Now that's another conversation to have. But for those who are unaware, let me simplify it for you. It's new characters, that would be like, reboots, connected to OG characters, hence the sequels, and then you put them together in the same storyline, requels. And a perfect example for that, the upcoming movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, that it will be released next month. All right, now, let's go ahead, press play, and proceed with today's part one episode. Now, after taking a break like this, a striking comeback is necessary. Absolutely. Something as impactful and shocking like a thunderbolt. Well, that's what we're starting off now. The movie Thunderbolts, with the asterisk, of course, aka The New Avengers, the 36th MCU film in the franchise and the final film of Phase 5, directed by Jake Schreier. Now, forgive me, I said once again, if I get the name wrong, I apologize. Thunderbolts stars Florence Pugh, Ashton Stan, Wyatt Russell, David Harbour, Olga Kurylenko, Louis Pullman, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, where it was released on May 2nd, 2025 to 88% positive reviews from critics and graded an A- from the audience, and has, as of this moment, grossed a total of $378 million with a reported budget of $180 million, which is a good return after a series of mixed responses to flops. We've all seen that it's been a bit of a struggle for the MCU lately to bring people back to the theaters. And Thunderbolts, I will say that it is a great starting movie to return that energy back. When I had gone to watch it in the movie theater, oh, it was packed and people were enjoying the hell out of this. It's like when the Avengers called in sick, step in the B Vengers. Now, if you know, you know. Now, here's what I liked about the movie. Obviously, what I said before, the return of the formula with the humor in the action sequences and the camaraderie of these characters. After watching Captain America Brave New World, I was feeling at odds if the MCU was going to be able to bounce back or if it's just overstayed its welcome. Yet this movie managed to show us that the formula has not expired. And then also, the conversation about the mental health. Okay, what I loved about that was how they did it. It wasn't in the scripts where it's right in your face, where it's fairly obvious. No, it was through the actions of these characters, getting into their mindsets and knowing their vulnerabilities and the powerful moment of unity when they're fighting towards the end, which spoke volumes. And I heard some people crying in the movie theater after that scene happened. And so to me, this is what helps bring the topic up, the way to resonate with today's times, and yet not just happen to be right there where we're all going to be annoyed, rolling your eyes, and be like, oh, geez, here we go again. No, 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 no. Let the visuals speak for themselves. And let's also talk about the action sequences. When it came to Captain America, that was done well, but it also felt a little bit uninteresting. And that's why with Thunderbolt, when they were fighting against the Sentry and the Void, it really did feel like a return for the MCU when it came to certain characters coming in, doing their thing. I found myself cracking up and enjoying it. It felt enjoyable to watch. And honestly, I can't wait for Fantastic Four to come out after this movie. And then, of course, the music, the directing, and then the performances as well. And then with Florence Pugh being literally the replacement of Black Widow, so to speak, that she did a phenomenal job being the moral compass of the group. I personally enjoyed that. And all the performances here, everybody understood their assignment, and especially seeing new faces into the MCU family. They all did their job well, and props to everybody who did their homework. They did a phenomenal job. And then this is where I find the mixed, and then we're going to be getting into the negatives as well. The fact that it just literally felt like the replacement of the Avengers. I literally watched the Avengers a few days ago, and it just seemed like not long ago you saw and you saw it interwoven narratives all coming together to fight one big enemy, which was Thanos. And then we would get introduced new characters. And then over the course of time, you saw Thor, you saw Black Widow, you also saw a Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange. And then we saw Spider-Man come back and Black Panther. And, we saw all of these new characters all having their own individual storylines, but then also uniting as a group for one big purpose. Now, with this one, the fact that they're literally the B Avengers, it just felt like, no, they shouldn't be a replacement group. They should just be their own group. I mean, we already have X-Men. We already got Fantastic Four. Let's just invite them into the group chat. I'm giving this with a fresh mango of a solid 8. I would definitely watch this again. For those that are going to be missing out, do not miss out on this. This is a great return for the MCU, and I am looking forward to the other phases. This is the final film of Phase 5. We're just going to get into Phase 6 with Fantastic Four, so I recommend y'all to go watch it. Now, when you get a few odd people together, some things are bound to happen along the way. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's scary, especially when it happens in a cornfield. I know agriculture could be spooky, but once the scarecrow decided to quit and the clown takes over, now you're talking Pennywise. That is another matter. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Clown in a Cornfield. Cliche, I know. It is based on the 2020 novel of the same name, a slasher horror film directed by Eli Craig and stars Katie Douglas, Aaron Abrams, Carson McCormick, Kevin Durant, and Will Sasso, where it was released on May 9, 2025. And it was released to $9.4 million as of this moment, with a reported budget of just $1 million. What a profit. The critics liked this movie with a 73% positive reviews, although this is where it gets rare. audiences seem to be on the opposite end where they graded this a C plus. Now I've seen this before where there are some films that just do well with critics, but they don't do well with audiences. Like I remember the horror movie It Comes at Night in 2017. People just didn't really vibe with it. And people graded that one a D. Now, putting clowns and a cornfield together, we all know that that's asking for a death wish. Now, my guess is that they wrote the script in blood and people showed up. Now, after seeing something like that while in the theater, I liked the direction that they took. They knew that it's not going to change anything in this slasher horror genre, and it's not going to redefine the genre by any means necessary. No, 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 no. It is just enjoyable for what it is. They got the horror tropes down. And we've seen this before. A new person comes into town, meets new friends, and then some bad stuff occurs, some trouble occurs, and then one by one, the body count starts, etc. And when the clown stuff starts happening, all hell breaks loose. They managed to film this where, yes, a majority of us already know the predictability that's going to happen in a horror film, and yet it was still enjoyable because of the execution, no pun intended, and the setting. It just helps a lot. I mean, who wants to be in a cornfield at night? Not me. And here's where it's a little bit mixed. So it started off a bit slow in the beginning, and towards the middle, I didn't think that it was gonna pick up as much. Insert the clown stuff with the circus begins. That is where the comedy starts to show more, and we do indeed get a few good moments here and there where it manages to be a horror movie with some comedic elements instead of being a comedy horror movie. Even a big modernized plot device that shall not be revealed here, I was here for it. They should have done this plot device 20 years ago, but the horror remakes were popping off, and that it was relatability for most people. Now, the blood and the kills, it's definitely graphic enough, so if you have a low tolerance for it, this is your fair warning. It's not like The Monkey or Final Destination, which we know is next level. The slow pace that was happening from beginning to end. There were some characters as well that seemed a little bit more on the one-dimensional side, and they just weren't written that well. And some of the performances, sometimes you try, and then sometimes it doesn't come off well on screen. And then also, I felt that some people that were in the movie theater, they didn't like the climactic act that's two-thirds into the film. Although I personally thought it was definitely a change of pace, but the motive for me, it didn't land well. That's what I'm gonna say. I know for some of y'all, the only thing that's scary is how the plot crawls instead of runs. The good thing that with this movie, it wasn't just the aesthetic. Some of the comedic elements in this movie were very funny, and there was definitely some memorable scenes as well. Like for me, there was this scene where the two girls are in an abandoned house and they're trying to figure out how to dial 911. But yo, this is through a rotary phone. And they're like, how do you do this? How like it just goes in a circle. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I don't even know how to work a rotary phone. That was not my time. I've heard some people be like, okay, you just go like this, you wait, and then you do it again, and then you wait. I'm like, that's too much. That's way too slow. We need something instant connection. Like, come on now. But seeing these girls like having it very difficult to call 911 with the rotary phone, just cracking up, and so were the people in the theater. The blood, the kills, the modernized plot device towards the end, and the comedic elements, all of those land. What's mixed for me was the slow pace, and then some of the negatives. Some of the directing and editing were more on the choppier side. And I just wasn't here for that. I don't know if it's becoming a trend now to where they want the audience to feel like they're involved in this world versus just watching it from afar. But me personally, that's not my thing. I like it where it's steady and you're just seeing it all in one. And then you're rooting for them to just survive and evade the killer and all of that. And now, overall, for me, this was pretty enjoyable. I would buy it on DVD. Now, I grade this with a solid 7. Now, I would enter a corn base. Now, I would enter a cornfield if it's Halloween, but let's not there be any clowns. Otherwise, I'm running the other way. Now, after embarking clowns in a cornfield, you may experience some scares and some bloodshed. I mean, life can be a death trap, and this next movie knows how to make it messy. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It is Final Destination Bloodlines, a supernatural horror film that was co-directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein that was released on May 16, 2025, starring Caitlin Santa Juana, Teo Briones, Richard Harmon, Owen Patrick Joyner, and Tony Todd in his final film before he passed of stomach cancer. Now, this movie became the best reviewed film of the franchise, and yo, it also became the highest grossing film in the franchise itself. Get this, with a 92% positive reviews from critics, and from the audiences, they graded it a B plus, and it has grossed right now a total of 266 million with a reported budget of 50 million. I mean, it's no surprise. This movie has wiped the blood spatter. It's practically a paint job at this point. Now, after a hiatus with this franchise, it speaks for itself. People seem to enjoy it. Although me personally, I still find it funny how after all of these years, Death is still the villain. You know, part of me wants to tell you what that writing room was like in 1999 with the writers, and to be like, what, we already have this franchise, and this franchise. How could we put something different that's creative and that people will come to see it? I know. Let's have Death be the villain, and let's have it be where someone just has a psychic vision, and then just one after another, death is only wait after death. Great idea. Great idea. I wonder what the hell was going on because it created generational trauma. Planes, the sauna beds, the logs or pipes behind the bed of a truck that is driving on the road, roller coasters. Yeah, it only made a few of us just terrified and never wanted to do that ever again. You know, just a few of us. I stay away from trucks that hold stuff on the back of their truck and that can cause accidents on the road. Oh, I'm very observant on that. If they're carrying overweight objects, nope, I'm going into the next lane or I'm getting off an exit. And this movie, it started the way that it did. Red flags were just occurring everywhere of a destruction that was about to happen. Now the generational trauma that is happening with this generation, yeah, let's just say that now nobody's gonna want to eat in a restaurant that is 700 feet above the air. Huge flag. Nope, not it for me. Now, I will admit, there are some things that I did like about this movie. It did not disappoint on the humor and a couple of deaths where the story was actually substantial this time. Well, of course, obviously from the very first one where that was my favorite above the rest. Now, there were some people that were laughing when it came to a few deaths that were in this movie. And I wondered, was that intentional? I mean, the blood and deaths just aren't as graphic, in my opinion, as some of the previous entries, but it does keep up on what makes Final Destination its own thing. And when it comes to the story part, it did add some layers of emotion, and that had quite a great development from before. I liked that. It was definitely quite a great touch, although throughout there, I just felt like I've seen this before. I've seen this in other horror movies, and yet it just doesn't end well, or they had a happy ending. So it also felt like they took a plot device from another horror movie and wanted to put it in here, so that way it makes its own Final Destination standalone. The lead actress who drives this film, I just kept thinking in the theater while I'm looking at her, why is she reminding me of Vanessa Hudgens? And how come Vanessa Hudgens doesn't get these kind of roles? Now, tell me if some of y'all thought the same thing because I saw some of the resemblance there, and I'm like, it can't just be me, right? Come on, like, please tell me if I'm the only one. Anyway, so let's get back to it. The highlight of this movie. The crown goes to Mr. Tony Todd in his final appearance before his death, and the last line that he said was improv on his part. Oh, what a full circle moment for him. For us that have seen the franchise continue on since the very first one, and for everyone else that has been added on as a bandwagon from 3 to 4, hearing his last line, it made it more sentimental. And honestly, it just tugged at my heart when after I did my research and I saw that he had passed away, and then that line, I was like, oh, he knew what he was doing. And it was very much a bittersweet moment and a lasting impression that he's gonna leave with us on screen forever. That was a genius move on his part. Some of the mixed and some of the eventual negatives that just didn't sit right with me. Now, the directing for me was also, like I mentioned earlier, it was a little bit on the choppier side, and the editing, it was just too quick paced on that directing part. And then this franchise is not my favorite in the horror part, but I still came to watch it to see what new additions were they going to learn from the other ones. It was it just felt a little bit more on the silly side, especially when it came to death. The fact that they were calling death he knows we're around. He knows what's about to happen. Like, I just kept thinking, who the fuck is he?
Who is he? Who the fuck is he? Is he me? Cause that ain't fucking me. He? He as in me? As in the I? Fuck no. Fuck
No, absolutely not. Talking about putting words in my mouth, quoting me.
Then another negative was when it came to the directing and some shots that they chose, it was just way too obvious, very much in your face that from one scene to another, like literally it's about every other scene where something could potentially happen to someone else to die. And I'm like, gee, thank you, Final Destination, for reminding us that at any given moment, any one of us could just die. Gee, big freaking thank you. And the ending, oh, don't even get me started on it. They had the chance to change things up from the previous entries, make it a different ending. And they chose that. And I'm like, that's how you decided to end it? Nah, fam. See, I would have just, you know what? No. I would have chosen a different ending that would have stood on its own and then still leave some room for where if you want another Final Destination, okay, go for it. If some of y'all like it, okay, that is on you. Now, this is where art is subjective. To each their own opinion. But for me, it just wasn't it. I am not much of a fan of the Final Destination franchise anyway. So I decided to go in here with minimal expectations to see, okay, what are they going to do to change things differently? And it just didn't hit well for me. That's why I'm grading this a 5.5. I would not watch it again, and I already know what to expect when it comes to another Final Destination movie. Now, if they do make another one, I will go ahead and watch it. And, there's always a chance to redeem yourself. And, maybe there'll be another emotional arc story that they'll add on to it. Okay, kudos for it. But this film wasn't it for me. After wiping off all of that talk of bloodshed, we will go ahead and take our first break here, and I will return with more reviews to cover. Welcome back, y'all. Now, lately the blood just doesn't seem to have a stopping point. There has been more blood here than a vampire's happy hour. I mean, come on. The clowns, they do not care. Death in Final Destination, he has no F's given kind of attitude and just going after everybody. And now we're about to go into prom night with Fear Street Prom Queen, which is the fourth movie in the Fear Street franchise. Yeah, y'all, the blood just keeps spilling out like out of the elevator in the movie The Shining, just like that. Now, at this point, all of these sets, they deserve transfusions or just leave it to a mosquito spit about that. Now, Fear Street Prom Queen, directed by Matt Palmer and based on the novel The Prom Queen that was in 1992. This movie is set in 1988, where the plot is the prom queen candidates of Shady Side are being targeted by a masked killer. Starring India Fowler, Susanna Sun, Fenna Straza, David Iacono, Aya Rubin, Lily Taylor, and Catherine Watterson. This movie was released on Netflix, so there is no box office receipts to give y'all, although it did receive 27% positive reviews from critics, and I saw that on Popcornometer that it got a low rating from audiences at 24%. So there's no average grading letter here, but we have that percentage. Now, here is some of the few stuff that I did like about this movie. The kills are definitely graphic, and they did well on the blood spatter. To the actor, Brendan Kloss, his exit of his horror death was just like, that was a way to go for his first on-screen death. And he did a great job with his part, by the way. So it was reminding me of the movie Prom Night, obviously. The time frame of the movie it happens in 1988, so we all know what the 80s era was like when we watch Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Prom Night, etc. Now, me personally, I'm a fan of the 80s and 70s era where their clothes, their fashion, like their music and their films, etc. And you see a little bit of that here and there, like just some occasional nods, but that's the thing. It's just nods. It just stops there. It didn't really capture the 80s era as much as it could have with the potential. And so now some of the performances that were in this movie, like they did the best that they could. And some of them, like they had some interesting characters, but there was some that just were very much one-dimensional and it didn't sit right with me. Now, some of the negative feelings that I felt while watching this movie. Now, the writing, it just did not seem to be that much developed or not even an ounce of originality. I've seen this before where the complete 180 can just be as predictable as possible. And I know that, like I just said before, the actors, they did the best what they could with the material. And you know what? Kudos on their commitment. If only there was some more depth or more two-dimensional, it would have had me care more for the characters. But I just found myself not really caring that much. And we've seen this before with the story, with the outsider girl running against the popular girls. I mean, we saw this with Carrie, and we know what happens in Carrie. And for some people that are not into horror films and they're gonna watch this movie, even some of them can predict like, okay, I know this is coming. Like that's where it just I like some of the horror film tropes where the potential character be the next target, and then it just goes and throws us off. But you see, that only works if the character fights back or they miraculously survive 2/3 into the film. That's how you want to keep the audience guessing. That's what it's entertaining to me. And in this one, when it came to the kills, knowing the obvious, knowing what's about to happen, and just guessing what the plot device was going to be next. Yeah, it took all the fun out of it for me. Now, like Clown in the Cornfield, now that gave a couple of surprises, and that's why I like that. Here, it just wasn't anything new. It didn't rise to the concept that it could have been. When it comes to the previous entries of Fear Street, this one is the lowest of the low. Prom night. It's supposed to be where everyone is together and no one disperses away from the prom. You're supposed to dance and have punch and have a good time and watch the prom king and queen and just have a good time. How is it that in every single one of these high school movies, there is no security by the doors and all these students are just wandering around? They're going into the basements, they're going into other classrooms, and they're sneaking off to do some dirty business. And yet the deaths happen. I'll talk about a big liability issue with the schools. Like, it didn't change anything here. There was this one death where I believe that the couple, they went to the basement and there was supposed to be like a surprise conversation here and there. Yeah, that death just made me laugh. It didn't scare me at all. And I was like, well, okay. I'm looking forward to seeing more Fear Street movies and see like, okay, what novels could they choose to adapt and how to keep the slasher horror genre going? Because I did like the trilogy, and this genre is one of my favorites. But you gotta make it great with creativity, and you gotta make it great with the horror aspect. The climax in this movie, it just didn't do well for me. Kind of like It Chapter 2. That climax, nope. I was like, seriously, that's what they ended up with. It was too campy in a not so good manner for me. Now, camp in horror movies can work when you know how to direct it and edit it smoothly, but not this one. I mean, maybe this one was just aiming for teenagers who were just wanting to kill time for basic entertainment anyway. During the announcement of the prom king and queen, yeah, I'm gonna be sad to say that this one is not a winner. So this mango is very sour and just throw it away. I'm giving this a 4. The 80s is a legendary era, and let's not have this bad egg just affect that in any way, shape, or form. So after going through the horror of prom night alongside a sad review too, you'd think that it could get any worse. Well, sorry to let y'all know, there are worse things out there than you think. Prom night can be deemed very tiny when the galaxy's most dangerous experiment is on the run. Earth is completely unprepared for this. But guess what? Deep in Hawaii, there is one lonely girl who was about to change everything. Not with weapons, no, 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 but with love, weirdness, and a ukulele. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Lilo and Stitch, the highly anticipated remake that a lot of people were looking forward to online. And that was directed by Dean Fleischberg Camp and starring Sydney Elizabeth Agwadong, Billy Magnuson, Hannah Waddingham, Chris Saunders, returning as the voice of, or Chris Sanders, my apologies, who returns as the voice of Stitch from the original film, Courtney B. Vance, Zach Galifianakis, and introducing Maya Kealoha as Lilo. This movie has grossed, as of right now, $815 million with a reported budget of $100 million, breaking numerous Memorial Day records and receiving 72% positive reviews from critics. And audiences, they graded this a solid A. I was looking forward to the live action remake as soon as I heard the news about it. And then as soon as it came out, I went in that first weekend to watch it. And I wondered how the film would fare out. And let's just say it definitely mirrored the original line by line about roughly 85%. Now, before I continue on, I have something to show you. So I managed to get this poster when I was watching it at the theater. And I was like, oh, this is classic Stitch chaos, where he's just going into everybody else's business, not wondering about it, just doing his own thing. And check it out. There's also a back for this poster. Oh, I don't know how I'm gonna hang this, but I really like it. Not Stitch literally going into Elio in the title and just messing everything up. That's classic Stitch for you. Now, Elio is also coming out very soon, and I'm also going to be watching that and grading it. But I just had to get this poster as soon as I was there in theater. And let's just say I am definitely going to treasure it. Okay, so now let's get into the movie itself. Despite some of the noticeable changes that I'm going to get into later, some of the positives in this movie were literally the CGI creation of Stitch. The fact that they kept the originality of his character with just all endless chaos, it was very entertaining for me. Like now I want my own little experiment monster, and that means I'm gonna have to go into the TV series to figure out which one I want. Yeah. For some of those that are OG diehard fans, we know that there is a TV series that aired right after the original movie. Only diehard fans know about this. For some of those who don't know, do your research and then get back to me. When you want to do a live action remake, there's a lot of people that talk about how it needs to stay true to the original. Literally, you could play both movies side by side and y'all will see that y'all will literally get the almost exact carbon copy of the scenes and of the lines. Another positive part, the actors, they all did a splendid job. And the directing was also wonderfully done. I wouldn't have changed anything with the way they shot it. And Maya Kialoha, in her big screen debut, she did a phenomenal job. And I hope that she doesn't lose the spark that she has because they all did a wonderful job of casting this girl as Lilo. And so did the other actors as well. Everyone knew how to understand their assignments. And it was great to see actual people playing characters who look relatable. It was kind of giving the 2000s vibes for me instead of having actors with noticeable plastic surgery who are trying to play real characters. But that's another episode to talk about. And don't be acting like you don't know what I'm talking about. I've seen y'all's thoughts about it. Another positive was the music. Hawaiian roller coaster ride. That just hits differently for me as an adult. And I would have been mad if they did not put that song in there. Like, I'm glad that was a smart decision on their part. Now, let's get into some of these major changes that were criticized online by a lot of people. There was a lot of online talk about these changes when it comes to the main antagonist, the removal of a certain character's disguise, if you know, and the ending. Now, I'm going to spill my hot take on these changes. So, when it comes to removing the disguise, honestly, it wasn't a big deal for me. I don't think it would have worked with the way that they would have shot it at the hotel and just them in their original form. I didn't see it as a big loss for me when it came to that disguise. And that's all I gotta say about that. Now, when it comes to the main antagonist, I will say I did feel some type of way about that just did not sit right with me. It didn't feel authentic to the character and to the original part of the story. And then, of course, that character, when he's expanded into the TV series, he's developed into something his own way. And then this one just made him seem very stereotypical. Now, the very ending, this is gonna be controversial, but I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I actually like the ending. It felt more authentic in that scenario, and it worked out for everybody anyway. I mean, they modernized the movie with FaceTime and technology, and that was a positive change that I did like about it, and it worked out well for everybody. In the original ending, things worked out. And in this one, things worked out, but not in the way that everybody wanted. Everyone was just throwing words around like, oh, this is the worst. Do not even go watch it. Oh, it craps on the original. Not true. Live adaptations are their own films. And the people involved, they do their best to stay true to the original. And to me, a few of these changes, it didn't abolish my view of this film. And overall, I still enjoyed it regardless. I like the ending. If you got a problem with it, I'm sorry, but that is just my take on it. And so this mango for me is just solidly good. I would give it a 6.5. I would go watch it again, but that is about it. Now, for some of the haters that were crapping about this online, when you walk into a movie and you have minimal expectations, most of the time you will walk out with zero disappointment or minimal disappointment. So adapt your mindset for that and don't over exaggerate your distaste of a film. Haters, y'all can hate, but I'm still blooming in the shade even when you attempt to throw it. Okay, now I got a question for y'all. If you were to put Stitch and Ethan Hunt in the same ring, who do you think would win? Go on and comment and let me know. Although, I will warn you, this episode may not self-destruct, everything else will. Unless Ethan Hunt can be here to stop it and literally save humanity. We are literally at the end of the concluding review, just like Ethan's last mission, with Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. After Dead Reckoning Part 1, that was released in 2023, had the largest opening weekend of the entire franchise. And this is the 8th movie. It has grossed, as of right now, $459 million with a reported budget of somewhere between $300 to $400 million. Now, they literally set the budget on fire through the stunts. It's literally like they asked, hey, Tom, how big you want to go? Yes. Yeah. Some of y'all may think it's overkill, but for me, I would say it's a cinematic adventure. And they sure excel with the stunts in this closing chapter of the franchise, especially considering that this is the one with the most expensive budget of the entire franchise. Let's get into it. Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, starring Tom Cruise in his final Ethan Hunt role, Haley Atwell, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, and Angela Bassett. This movie received 80% positive reviews from critics, and audiences graded this an A minus. Now, comparing it to the other previous entries, it's up there, but it didn't exactly land the way a grand finale should. Especially because the previous four films, those were all above 90% positive reviews. Now, with my movie experience, oh, it was packed in the theater with the older generation and the younger generation. Oh, people were looking forward to this movie. And then when the airplane scene happened, yeah, my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, nervous, but on the surface, I was calm and ready. I was like, I almost dipped into my anime. I almost dipped into my alter ego. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Going back to this movie, that climactic scene, the way Tom Cruise did that stunt with the airplane and the way they shot it, I literally could not move in my seat. And when I did my research on this, they spent a year and a half just to plan it, just for them to figure out how they were going to do this stunt, and they were doing stunt training, safety procedures. That took months just for Tom Cruise to figure out how he was going to be able to maneuver it. And also, they were trying to plan out how to do the wing maneuvering and the camera angles and how they were going to shoot it in the sky. When it came to actually shooting the scene, it took them numerous days to go up into the sky and make sure that they filmed it because, yo, there were numerous takes, numerous angles of how they did that. It is just like, if y'all want a cinematic, mind blowing experience, watch that scene. It is just very stunning of how they did this. It obviously some of the other positives that I liked about this movie was some of the directing shots that they chose, the story, the anticipation, the emotional depthness of this grand finale. When y'all look at the submarine scene, I was stunned by that as well. And obviously the CGI, I believe if I'm not mistaken, it was CGI. But the way they filmed it inside, I didn't want to blink. I didn't want to go to the restroom. Oh, by the way, for some of y'all, because I'm recommending to watch this movie, take a bathroom break before you watch this movie because it's literally stunning from beginning to end. And it was just the music. And if you want to see like who can run against the course of time, Ethan Hunt is your man. Because this movie it literally did a lot of things well when it came to the stunts, the directing angles, the music, the performances, etc. They did a phenomenal job on that. Everybody there, like they knew their mission and they definitely understood it very well, especially when it came to the confrontation scenes, the action scenes, the emotion scenes where if a death occurs or they're on the race against the course of time to go save humanity. Oh, that is some of the positives that I have about this movie, which is a grand gesture in of itself. Now, was some of them mixed? I felt that when it came to the storyline with the entity, the runtime was a little bit overdue. There were some moments where it did feel like it was lagging a little bit. There were some parts that were unrealistic when it comes to the countdown. And they're literally on the verge of trying to save humanity. I literally timed that on my phone and humanity would have been done. There would have been a global destruction at that time. A big negative that I had was they did not bring back some of the previous characters that Ethan had associated with in the previous entries that should have been brought. If you're going to close off the finale of a franchise, you want to be able to do it in a grand gesture, like the way it's supposed to be. This is the final reckoning. It should have been done like the way Avengers Endgame did it. You have everybody come back, do their part, and make it like a big group project to get an A plus on it. Like they could have brought back Ethan Hunt's ex-wife from Fallout, who was presumed dead, but she came back in Fallout. Sorry for some of y'all that did not see that. Whoops. And they could have brought back Paula Patton's character, another IMF agent. They could have brought back people who had run into him previously on their missions. They could have came back for this one mission with their own skill sets. And then that way they could have helped him with this one mission. It should have been like Mission Impossible? No. Mission accepted. All the previous IMF agents, it could have been done spectacularly that way. To me, that was a missed opportunity, and that's a big negative for me. Although it didn't impact the way that I did, I definitely did enjoy this film. Overall, this mission was a success, and this mango is very fresh. I give this 8.5. Mission Impossible? No, more like mission accomplished. And Y'all, I mean, let's face it, Ethan Hunt has saved humanity enough times. He needs to deserve his rest and let someone else save humanity for a change. Now, that is it for the end of my reviews. And I will say that even though I am a self proclaimed cinephile, it is sad for me to say that I was unable to see Shadow Force, Rust, Hurry Up Tomorrow, although I am working on seeing Fountain of Youth on Apple TV Plus and The Phoenician Scheme. I know some of y'all may be thinking, dude, we're in June now. You got to catch up with the times. Now, don't be assuming I'm very much behind, okay? I did my homework. I'm caught up. And trust me, I got June's movies coming up to be reviewed very, very soon for y'all. After going through May's portions of the popular movies, we will go ahead and take another break here, and I will return with a highly requested topic to discuss. Y'all do not want to miss this. Welcome back, y'all. Now, usually at this part of the episode, I give y'all the tea with a bunch of the movie buzz that is happening in these streets, but that's going to be postponed into part two because it has come to my attention and in my DMs that some of y'all have reached out to me about my input about this matter, this ongoing matter, and wanted me to talk about it on the podcast. So even though I'm going to admit, to me, this is more of a tabloid matter, it still does involve the movie that is a big part of this controversy. So I will go ahead and address this. Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively feud and the ongoing legal battle that has started from the film It Ends With Us. Now, to fill y'all in on a little bit of background, It Ends With Us was released on August 9th, 2024 to 55% positive reviews from critics, and audiences actually ranked this an A minus. And that's because he also directed this movie. It grossed $351 million out of a reported budget of $25 million. So obviously it was deemed a box office success. I mean, you would think that with this success, the actors would want to celebrate this, right? I mean, it is quite an achievement. It's the biggest movie of Blake's career, and also it would have elevated Justin's career in directing as well, because I believe that this is also his biggest film gross in his entire career. Nope. The public started noticing some odd behavior happening during the press tour. Social media and criticizing Blake Lively for being tone deaf and promoting her brands instead of addressing her character with her domestic abuse journey and just advocating for the survivors during interviews. There is a screenshot of her sharing a link to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So just to be clear on that, she didn't dismiss it entirely. During the press tour, Justin Baldoni was doing everything right and he was in the clear with the PR. He said that he was directing this for women. He was directing this for domestic abuse survivors. And he was nailing the advocations just right. And in between that time, people were noticing that they were not being together and were wondering, well, they're the two stars. Why are they not together? Sources leaked that there was conflict between them both, which was confirmed over the course of time where they weren't taking pictures with each other at the premieres, and there were some absences that occurred during notable joint press events. And people noticed that this wasn't going to go anywhere and it was not going to be swept under the rug. Well, I say that this is where the Hiroshima effect came in. Her legal complaint of Justin and his company plus those that were involved in the film for creating a hostile and unprofessional work environment, which comes from sexual harassment from him and retaliating against her for misconduct, attempting to damage her reputation. And y'all, this is where the hurricane begins. The complaint that was filed privately was published by the New York Times, and Justin responded with a multi-million dollar lawsuit against them, claiming that they deliberately spliced to mislead. Now, at this time during the complaint, we see a wave of support for Blake Lively and for domestic abuse survivors and for women. And then simultaneously, Justin gets dropped from his talent agency, and the ripple effects continue from there. Justin's attorney made an accusation to Ryan Reynolds of making fun of his client, where in Deadpool and Wolverine, supposedly the character that had, the half up and half down, supposedly that was a parody of Justin Baldoni. And that's where he sued them directly for $400 million for defamation, extortion, and more. Yeah, this was already a lot for me to research, and I know it's a lot for y'all to hear. And there's a lot of back and forth of evidence and claims, and where now Taylor Swift is involved because she was being subpoenaed to be a good friend of Blake's, and somehow, allegedly speaking, her media influence, plus Ryan Reynolds as well, was supposedly used to coerce Justin, which it didn't seem to be going well. It was with feeling used, which I do not blame her at all. Now, Here is where the most recent headlines come into play. It literally on June 2nd, where it was revealed in legal filings that two of Blake's claims, where it was the intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress, are being dropped. And her attorneys gave out a statement saying, quote, "This is a routine, part of the litigation process that is being used as a precedent. We are doing what trial lawyers do, preparing our case for trial by streamlining and focusing on it. They, Justin's legal team, they are doing what they do, desperately seeking another tired round of tabloid coverage." Now, this came after supposedly one of Justin's lawyers, Kevin Fritz, requested an order compelling Blake Lively to identify her medical and mental health care providers by signing an HIPAA release for access to therapy notes and relevant medical information that has been from said of the emotional distress. Now, keep in mind, this was June 2nd. Now, after that, what I saw published next came on June 9th, was that Justin Baldoni's $400 million countersuit, it was tossed out by the judge in what the media calls a shocking legal twist, and that his team has supposedly until June 23rd to amend their claims for breach that their terms in their legal agreement were violated and intentionally disrupting the relationship between the said parties, potentially leading to significant financial damages and reputation harm. And to wrap all of this legal jargon up, because I'm not the unbiased podcast, Scooter Braun, aka Justin Bieber's former manager and connection also with Taylor Swift, he also got subpoenaed for this trial. Now, where does Scooter Braun fit in all this? Well, supposedly, he and Justin Baldoni had been friendly in passing, and some of the reports in the media are saying that it's just his presence is just more to dig into any dirt and leverage on Justin, not necessarily with the movie itself. And Scooter is also in a legal battle with Taylor Swift when it comes to the master of her music, but I'm not here to talk about that because that's more of a music issue. Oh, okay. Now my lungs are going to be filing a formal complaint. Now, yeah, because you know what? Drama just seems to be more mandatory, whereas my oxygen, yeah, that's just optional. So here is my summarized take about this ongoing legal battle issue. I am not deciding to choose with either side because, for one, I was not on set when this happened, so how can I? This is literally all juice that is happening from the media. I'm bringing this issue with a logical take on it and with everything that's being reported. It's basically Johnny versus Amber happening all over again, but with more work instead of a divorce. And there seems to be a lot of astroturfing occurring around here. And that's how the media spreads to the masses for it. Astroturfing is defined as a deceptive tactic that is used to mislead the public easily, with a movement happening and can be used in political campaigns, advertisements, etc., where the goal is to influence the court of public opinion, where we obviously have seen this happen since the beginning of media time. And this is why I say to balance out your reactions with logical and emotional because of all of this astroturf. This is not new at all. We have seen this over the course of time, and it's more prevalent now with social media and today's social culture. Now, let me tell y'all what I am here for. I stated from the jump that this is a safe space. I am here for fair treatment. I'm here for hard work ethics. I'm here for professionalism while being transparent at any workplace that any of y'all work at. Because let's be real, miscommunication happens all the time. Trust me, even I know. And in this case, people that are involved in the film industry, they are all working towards the same goal because those movie sets are long hours and there is a lot that is at stake and they have a deadline. They have a lot of stuff to do. And so when it comes to professionalism and communication, that needs to be transparent. You all know it, that those are multi-million dollar budgets and they have a job to do. Now, here is also what I am here for. I'm also here for ownership and claiming responsibility for your actions instead of smear campaigns or digging dirt. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have worked on set before and I recently just came from the set. Those days can get draining with the rearrangement of the lighting, having to deal with outdoor weather, indoor spaces, and then rearrangement of the equipment, like expensive equipment, which takes a lot of time to get done. And of course, the schedule, the timeline that they are on. If we, as the people, if we were not extras or workers on the set to see them in their environment, we automatically cannot be passing judgment on either one. Since this is more of a he said, she said war, and everything that is being put out there, like I said, is giving AstroTurf vibes and it's telling us who to love, who to hate. Hello, did anybody not remember innocent until proven guilty? Yeah, this case is no different. And so here's what I have to say. They need to have their day in court, see who really is telling the truth, and let the truth that was done in the dark will come to light. So let the truth come out the way it's supposed to. Now, let me tell y'all what else I'm here for. I am here for domestic abuse survivors. I am here to lend my support for true survivors who are not lying about their experiences and who are not crying wolf or playing just the victim card to gain sympathy and empathy. No, there are true domestic abuse survivors out there who put in the work to improve their lives day to day and who just want to grow and leave it behind instead of playing victim. And what I'm also here for is having your day in court to due process. Now, I did my extensive research on this, and I saw that Justin Baldoni is on the board of the ambassadors for, I hope I get this correctly, the the Tariri Justice Center, which is a nonprofit that advocates for women, girls, and immigrant survivors of gender-based violence and advocates for gender equality, mental health, and social justice, while Blake Lively has advocated for children's rights and protections and social justice initiatives that go with the Child Rescue Coalition, the NAACP Legal Defense and Educated Fund, plus the Young Center for Immigrant Children's Rights. Now, there's a reason why I brought this up. I'm bringing both of their backgrounds to light for y'all, so that way this can be factored in on how they both have used their public platforms in order to bring awareness of what they feel passionate about and how it ties in with their legal battles today. That is my take on this topic. And if y'all have any opinions on it, feel free to comment. And if y'all want continuous updates about the specific trial, since this is going to be ongoing for a while, reach out to me, leave your thoughts, and I will go ahead and keep y'all updated. And that is a wrap for part 1. Like I said, part 2 will be arriving very, very soon. Whew, now, after going through all of that, I am submitting this as my audition video for someone who has ran a marathon. Okay, so y'all thought I was going to end it like that? I got y'all. We are going to end this with a positive quote. Now, with this month being Pride Month, I will proceed with a positive quote that is not just for the community, but for allies as well. Here we go. When you put love out in the world, it travels. It can touch people and reach people in ways we never even expected. Inclusivity is within everyone's ability, and love is contagious. So let's welcome the love. Now, that is all that I have for y'all today. Go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day or night. And go and do me a favor. Go ahead and get some plenty of summer vibes while it is summertime. And I will go ahead and see y'all soon.